Hey guys, what's up? I'm Noah, this is Analog Resurgence, and today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the fundamentals of film. Today I want to talk to you guys about the basics of film as a format, and I thought a lot about how to do this, and I've decided that I'm going to try and stay away from the really science side of things and instead just kind of cover the basics of the format and just information that's really useful to know when you're trying to get into shooting analog formats for the very first time. Maybe you're just somebody who's never touched film before in their entire life and they just know nothing about it. And in that case, then this is some of the information that you're really going to want to know. So film looks like this. Well, to be specific, this is 35mm film. But the only thing that makes it that different from, say, Super 8 film is the physical size of it. So when film is manufactured, it's done so in big rolls, and it's stored in large containers. Then the film manufacturer will cut the film down to specific sizes based on what they're making. So one of the things that a lot of people recognize about film is these holes that are cut into the film along the edge. These are only used in certain formats, and they're called perforations, or sometimes sprocket holes, and they help to transport the film through the camera when you're shooting it. So if we look, things like Super 8 film, 35mm, and 16mm movie film all have perforations in them. In a normal 35mm camera, you can see these sprockets line up with these spiked rollers. As you wind the camera, these rollers help to pull the film through the camera by aligning with the sprockets. Super 8 and modern 16mm movie film are all single perforation, which means that they only have holes cut down one side of the film. Now this was done to allow for a wider frame size to be exposed onto the film when shooting them. A movie camera will have a pull-down claw by the film gate that will grab the sprockets and help to advance the film through the camera. Now when shooting film, you have to be really careful of cameras that are damaged or not functioning properly that can actually damage the sprockets of your film when you're shooting. This can cause damage to the rest of the film and can result in you losing images or even portions of the film not even being able to be properly processed when a lab is trying to develop the film. It can also result in improper frame spacing in your camera if your camera is just not advancing the film properly. Film without sprockets like 120 film and 4x5 film work differently. So on a lot of medium format 120 cameras, the film is loaded into a magazine that attaches to the back of the camera. These magazines don't use spiked rollers in order to advance the film, and instead you wind it through and advance the film this way using a winding mechanism on the side. Now 4x5 film actually comes in sheets, so you're only shooting one sheet at a time, which means that the film isn't being moved when it's in the camera. It's just being loaded into film holders and just lays flat. So you don't need any perforations in order to keep the film moving or in place or anything because it's just a different type of system. Okay, now is the part of the program where I try and explain how film is made in a really basic way. But if I get it wrong or it doesn't make sense, then please somebody let me know and I will try and do a more in-depth video covering it in the future. Film is made by taking a base material and applying gelatin layers to one side of the base that are light sensitive and capable of capturing an image. Now modern film stocks have an acetate base, but very old film stocks used nitrate as a base. Film was changed from nitrate to acetate because, well, nitrate likes to catch on fire. And naturally, this was a problem because over the years, entire films have been lost due to fires of these nitrate films. So they decided to change the material that film was made from, which was really smart. Now, just like any two-dimensional object, film has two sides. This side of the film is the base, so it sits against a pressure plate in the camera and is more resilient to scratching. This side of the film is the emulsion side. Base and emulsion are two really important words to know when you're talking about film. Emulsion is the side of the film that is coated with the layers necessary for capturing an image. It is the side that you put facing the lens to capture an image and is light sensitive. The base side of the film has a somewhat glossier look and feel to it, and the emulsion side of the film tends to be flatter with more of a matte feel. Now, when you put your film into chemical developers, it's a specialized process, and it works to convert the silver halide components on the film's emulsion into an image. Most of this process needs to be done in complete darkness in order to avoid exposing the film while it's still light sensitive. Now, by the end of the process, these light sensitive characteristics of the film have been removed, and you are left with your film negative, which is safe to look look at in the light. These are film negatives. On the left is a black and white negative, and on the right is a color negative. These are the inverted versions of the pictures that you took with your camera. Now, most people have their negatives digitally scanned to an image file format, during which they are inverted properly to give you your image. The other option is to do a darkroom print of the negative using an enlarger and special light-sensitive paper. Photo paper, like film, will make a negative of whatever you project onto it. The film negative is projected onto photo paper, and then the paper is developed in a similar way that the film is developed. Then you're left with your print, because a negative of a negative is a positive. So color negative films have an orange base to them, meaning that they all look very orange once they're developed. So this happens because color film has different pigments on its emulsion in order to render color. But certain pigments are a little uneven and absorb light that they shouldn't. As a result, extra yellow and magenta are added to some pigments to compensate, and the result is an orange mask on the film negative. Okay, it's confusing, I know, but all you really need to know is that this is a black and white negative and this is a color negative. Now, when you're looking at your negative, you kind of have to think about your image backwards because it's inverted. Any light or transparent areas of the negative will actually be the darker shadow areas when it's inverted, because that area will become black. And any of the denser, more solid areas of the negative will become the brighter highlight areas of your image once your film is properly inverted. Now, if you aren't shooting negative film, then you're probably shooting reversal film. Reversal film, or slide film as it's also called, will come out of the developing process as a positive. And once you shoot it and have it developed, it looks like this, with your positive images right there on the film. And you can get these mounted if you like and then project them, which in my opinion is the absolute best way to enjoy your slide film. Now, reversal processing involves a bleaching process, multiple developers, all sorts of different chemicals that are just completely different from the C41 color process or the black and white negative process. Right now, for still photography film formats, there's nobody really widely making a black and white slide film. So if you are shooting slide film, then you are kind of stuck with shooting color slide film. Black and white reversal does exist for 16mm and Super 8 in Kodak's Tri-X stock. Now, motion picture labs are usually the only labs out there with machines that are set up to do this specialized process. I really think that when shooting film, it's really important to know the basics of what it is and just what exactly it is that you're holding in your hands. For some people, it's such a foreign experience to shoot on a physical medium and just use this format that they've just sometimes never touched before in their entire lives. Things like knowing about sprocket damage and which side is the emulsion side or the base side of the film, or what to expect when you're looking at your negatives can go a long way in helping you to get into analog formats and to just understand what it is that you're dealing with. If you've only ever dealt with digital formats for your entire lives, then there are aspects of it that are just completely different from anything you may have ever encountered before. And it does seem a little daunting because it just seems like there's so much to know, but these basics are a great thing to keep in mind when you're getting into analog formats for the very first time. And if you keep them in mind, they're more likely to help you eliminate some of that initial learning curve when you're getting into analog. So thank you guys so much for checking this out, and I hope that it's really helped you guys out there to understand film a little bit more, answer some of your basic questions about getting into the analog format and just how daunting it might seem. Because if you go into it with the understanding of some of these basic skills, then it's easier to have fun and just experiment and just start taking pictures and making movies and just enjoying analog formats, which is a creative and artistic medium for you guys to experiment with. And subscribe as I continue to post analog content every week for you guys to check out and learn more about, whether it's instant film or photo film or cinema film. Thanks, and I'll see you guys soon.